Arrow Season 4, Episode 8, Legends of Yesterday. This is part 2 of the crossover, and unfortunately we don't get any more of the people that are going to be showing up in Legends of Tomorrow, which was the only thing that kind of disappointed me about this part of the crossover, because just like the last one, excuse me, just like part 1, I thought we'd have a lot more of the characters from Legends of Tomorrow, and I thought for sure we would at least get Sarah, because like I mentioned yesterday, with her in the last episode she was in for Arrow, she's like, oh, I'll probably go visit mom in Central City. I thought for sure she would at least be the one extra person in this episode. So it was still kind of weird that they didn't have at least her and Ray in there, because they had pretty much every reason to get as much backup as they could. And as far as, like, Captain Cold and Heatwave, I understand that just, like, poof, they're, helping them out. So that made perfect sense, but at least the two people that are in the towns that they're in should have been in this crossover. So I thought that was kind of weird. They could have definitely just, helped out a little bit. But this was still a really cool part. I think I enjoyed this one more than part 1, actually, because this was really just, let's figure out what the heck we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We got all the backstory. So this was really, how do we get Kendra to her full potential, and how do we get rid of Vandal Savage? So part 1 was like the exposition, basically. Here's backstory. And then part 2 is like, here's solution. So I enjoyed that a lot more. It was fun watching them figure out how to get Kendra to her full potential and how they would beat Savage. Also, this might be like the main thing, but of course Barry going back in time again, very cool. There was a lot in this that was actually cooler than the stuff they did in Flash. Like with Flash, as much as I enjoyed how they did the exposition and like, this is who these characters are, the coolest thing in that was probably the fact that we got to see Jay actually work with Harrison, and we got to see Caitlin, like, we got to see them work together and save Wells' life, and the fact that they introduced the Velocity 6 thing. And I think that's because I know a bit about Vandal Savage and Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and they basically told the story that I knew, which is they're fated to be together in every reincarnation, and that's pretty much what they told us. Like, there's nothing, they didn't really change much outside of the mystical stuff and the fact that, Vandal Savage seemed to not have the exact same origin as he does in the comics, which, for one thing, him being tied to Hawkman and Hawkgirl, I think that's something, if that's in the comics, I believe that's in like the New 52 style, but I hadn't heard that even recently. I hadn't heard that he had any connection to them, so I think that's strictly for, the Arrow Flash universe. That's how they're doing that. But that was like really the big difference about his origin. It wasn't that he was actually a Neanderthal, because he was, instead of him being here, like in the States, in America, like a long freaking time ago when people were still Neanderthals, it still involved a meteor. So that was like the one big thing from his origin that kind of stuck. But it was a meteor that crashed down on Earth, and basically it made him a super genius, like in an instant. Like I'm trying to remember I believe it's Justice League Doom, which is a great DC movie, so definitely check that out. But he talks about how this meteor crashed and everyone else feared it, but he stayed near it, and basically the light kept him warm, during the night. So he slept by this meteor, and when he woke up, he was basically a genius. Like, he was as smart as we are currently, so he knew exactly what was happening. And basically he was a prick after that, because he was like, I'm just going to lead everyone and rule the world. So that's pretty much how that happened. But in this, it was very different. He was, kind of in love with Shira, and that never got to work, so he was mad at Khufu, and he killed both of them, and basically they transfer from, life to life. And I guess he wouldn't have, but clearly Malcolm is doing something really stupid, and that's how we're going to get him as the villain, because that really surprised me. That was another thing I think I really enjoyed. I thought for sure it was be like, okay, well, they're going to get him away from them, but they won't kill him. And then he blew up and turned into dust, and I was like, I don't know what's about to happen next. So that, that was a huge surprise for me. And then here comes Malcolm. I feel like this was the dumbest thing I've ever seen him do. I know he's evil, but he's normally really smart, and I feel like this is the stupidest thing he's ever done. And he's going to bring back a villain who's immortal. And I don't know how this is going to play out with him, in Legends of Tomorrow. I'm assuming he'll still be immortal. It'll just, I don't know what could happen because actually Nissa messed up um, the Lazarus pits because that was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, oh well, he just I don't know how that would work either. If he just threw dust in there, he just poof, he'd pop back up. But he's got something planned. I'm assuming it would be more mystic based because for one, the Lazarus pit doesn't work now, period, and two, I don't think you're just gonna regrow from some specks of dust after you got turned to ash. So I don't know what he's planning, but it seems like he's gonna have a lot more of a tie-in with Legends of Tomorrow than I was expecting. But even with that, they go through time a lot, so it seems like that's a thing with Vandal Savage as well, where either he can jump through time, or they're just gonna stop him at every single point where he almost like took over the whole world. They basically go back to all those different points, so maybe that's how that's gonna play out. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to what they're gonna be doing with this because now it has a huge tie-in with the League of Assassins, and I'm assuming Merlin is gonna do it and be like, "Hey, I brought you back to life." Like he already says it after he just puts some, he puts some ashes in a little, basically little tin can, and he's like, "You owe me one." So I guess he knew him. He knew way more than he was leading on because he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about him, and that's why I'm afraid." So maybe they're actually good friends, just good evil buddies or something crazy like that. But he's gonna bring him back to life somehow, with like a little bit of dust. He knew exactly. He knew exactly what he said in the past, like Kendra's dream of their or memory of their very first death. He has this whole little speech and stuff about wanting to go, from this life to the next, and his rage or his enmity will last forever and through every lifetime. And somehow Merlin knew exactly that. Like I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that means that they do actually know each other, and he's told him this story. And like this is what happened when we first killed each other. I guess I don't know, but he knows a lot more than he said in this episode. I'm assuming they're actually good buddies, because you don't bring back someone like that unless you either know the person or you want to try to get him on your side. And like I said, with him being this immortal character who is just evil and super strong and crap, it doesn't seem like a good idea to just bring that person back just because you want them on your side. So I feel like I'm hoping it's more of a personal tie, because otherwise I'll be even madder at them just for doing something so stupid. So I hope that they are actually friends in some weird evil villain type of way, because otherwise it's like that's just a really dumb move on his part. So we'll see how it plays out, but unfortunately that won't happen until Legends of Tomorrow, because I doubt they'll give us any answers in the next Arrow episode, which who knows what that's going to be, which I thought was interesting. They showed us a promo for the Flash mid-season finale next week, but we didn't see anything for Arrow, so I'm like, well, what the heck's going to happen in Arrow now? And I'm assuming maybe it'll tie in. This will be like the last tie-in for Legends of Tomorrow, instead of it starting up and it's like, this is what happened, because that doesn't even start up until January, I think it's like 12th or 14th or something like that. So even that we have to wait quite a while, like basically over a month, before we get to see what happens. So maybe they'll give us a little bit of an answer as to what Malcolm does in Arrow. And maybe that's why they don't give us that promo, because it's actually going to tie into, it'll be like the final lead-in for Legends of Tomorrow. But I really like this one. It was really fun to see Barry go back in time again. That was really awesome. I was surprised it happened so quickly. Before he did it, the fact that they killed everyone was crazy to me, because I was like, crap, the explosion happens and they show everyone just like get burnt to a crisp. They kill Oliver, they killed everybody, like Felicity dies, Diggle dies, Theo dies. Everyone just gets like hit by this crazy giant wave, and Barry has to jump through time. And I was like, it was crazy to see that, because they actually died. It wasn't even like in Flash where it was like, crap, people are about to die, and he was stopping it, but while running back in time. This was like they were dying and we saw it happen, and then he shoots back in time. So that was actually really crazy to see, even though I knew it was going to be changed. It literally in the scene I was like, well, this is going to change, but it was still crazy. Like, man, they do the crazy slow motion where they like get burnt away and stuff, and it was nuts. So really crazy moment to see that, because I don't think that's anything they've ever done. They killed everybody. I mean, they killed Hawkman, died, Hawkgirl got killed, and then they're trying to stop him and the gloves don't work. Barry has to take off. Oliver dies. Everybody else dies. So that was a crazy moment because that's not something we see in either shows. But of course, that happens in the Arrow half of things where it's like, oh, let's temporarily just kill everybody. So naturally, that happens in Arrow. But I certainly enjoyed that. It was a really cool moment. Who knows what's going to happen with Barry and his son? I mean, he finds out he has a son in both of these timelines, and or Oliver, I think it's a Barry, but Oliver finds out he has a son, and Barry tells him like, with things changing, basically saving all these different lives, weird stuff is gonna happen. Things are gonna kind of autocorrect in a weird way. They won't, people aren't gonna get killed off, but he decides not to tell Felicity, which, if that's the one condition, I understand why he wouldn't, and he wasn't going to in the initial timeline, even when they had the argument. So I don't know I don't know what to really expect from that, because of course with them being in Central City, he'd also have to take off all the time, and he does mention like obviously he can't be stopping it like every once a week or something, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see for sure how that plays out. I mean, I'm assuming it'll get found out somehow. I don't know if it'll be because of a villain or if it's gonna be, he just says it like, you know what, so much crazy stuff is happening. But one thing that I did think of, which I knew this episode he was going to find out that he had a son because I saw a preview for it. But I was thinking, what if his son was the one that got killed by Damien Dark? Like, what if his son was the one that got killed? And that way, they save everyone else. They save, all the characters that we're actually used to. Even though it kind of wouldn't make sense that he'd be buried, in Star City. But I guess it would a little bit, so he'd technically be buried with his family. But it would make perfect sense. That way it would explain like why Barry wasn't super upset. It's like, it really sucks that happened, and obviously I'm sorry. But then it keeps all of our main characters safe, but it still means a lot to Barry, and it's like that's why he's going to kill Damien Dark, because maybe he killed his son. So that could be the case. That would be very interesting if they did that. That would really suck if that's how they did it. But that was something that was a big possibility. Like, this would make perfect sense. He never, it's the son he just found, and then we'll say 5 months from now, I have to assume it's been at least a month since the season's officially started. Obviously in time, in the showtime. But maybe that's what it is. That way, it saves all of our characters, which it easily still could be any of the main characters. I really hope not, but it would also suck if they killed a kid off and it was Oliver's son. But who knows? They popped into my head when, like, finally, just watching it, I was like, crap, it could be his son that got killed, and perfect reason to say you're going to kill someone. They killed the son that you barely even knew that you had. So that could be the case. Something that just popped into my head. It might not be. Still no idea. And there's really been like no actual leads as to who may or may not die. They haven't done like anything. Honestly, Oliver's been almost killed more than anyone else in this entire season. He almost died when he first ran into Damien Dark. He almost died yesterday on the first part of the crossover. Everyone else has been totally fine. Thea, we found out, is basically immune and even has like some weird like counter spell. And I guess it's because of all the different souls or whatever from the Lazarus pit. So maybe that's what Damien absorbed when he did that to her. And he kind of absorbed, it wasn't like her life force. It was like he was absorbing all sorts of crazy messed up type of stuff. Who knows? So she's really the only one that kind of has a bit of immunity, even though she could easily be killed in other ways. But everyone else has just been like, no hints whatsoever. I don't think it would be Laurel because of the whole, Green Arrow, Black Canary thing. And they kind of just leave Diggle and Felicity, even though, like I said, Thea could still get killed off. Obviously, it's not going to be Sarah or Ray because they're going off into Legends of Tomorrow. So, don't know. It kind of leaves like 3 people there, one of which is his son. It could technically be the mother as well, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess it could be because then it's like, well, you killed the mother of my child. So that's still a big deal as well. But I don't know. It's popped into my head, so I wanted to just throw that out there as like, here's possibly another person. It totally could happen. It's Damien Dark. He has mystical powers and basically an army under mind control. He could send someone to Central City and kill a kid. So that's out there now. I'm really looking forward to whatever we get. I'm hoping that it does tie in next week in Arrow to Legends of Tomorrow, because otherwise they're leaving us just open with nothing for a full month until the show actually starts up. So hopefully that'll be kind of the at least part of the focus in the mid-season finale for Arrow. I might have to look up what the promo is going to be now since they showed us the Flash one, which I'm looking forward to because we get Captain Cold, Heat Wave. I can't remember the guy who can control storms, but one of the brothers. And we get Mark Hamill back, so that should be pretty cool. It should be a really crazy episode with him in it again, so I'm looking forward to that. But this was a fun part 2. Certainly enjoyed this one more than the others. Glad that, suck that Cisco, like he mentioned, boy meets girl, boy gets the girl, and then girl leaves the boy for ancient, crazy reincarnation relationship. So, sucked for him, but at least he got a kiss at the end. I mean, I guess that's good. I don't know. But I enjoyed this part. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I actually want to know which part you guys liked more. Was it part 1 with basically all the backstory and kind of the side story where we finally got to see Jay come out of like purgatory or whatever? Or part 2 where we got to see them actually kill Vandal Savage and then Malcolm Merlin scoop up some dust. And I was amazed. I really thought he was going to be picking up all of the dust, which is so stupid, but I really thought he was going to be just picking up every part of him and just dropping it in the thing, but that didn't even remotely make sense. But I also don't know what he could possibly do with his ashes, so I'm just looking forward to getting the answer, which I really hope we get in Arrow next week instead of having to wait until Legends of Tomorrow. But that would be a great cliffhanger for them to do. I'd still hate them for doing that to us, but it would be a really good cliffhanger, like having to wait all the way until January whatever to actually get the answer. But I want to know which part you guys like more, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.